Hello, you lovely people, and welcome to my 7th book chat.
Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 Sophie Vlogs.
I am really enjoying my new job. It's great. I love it. I am also commuting. What would be like a 20-minute drive is a 1 to 2 hour journey either way. So I have a lot of time for reading now. So despite now being employed, I am still getting through books at a pace previously unknown to me because I have a lot of time just sat on vehicles. So this might be a slightly lengthy book chat. I'm gonna try and be concise, but it's me, so you know. First up, we have two books which I don't have because I've given them back to their owners because I am attempting to return all of the books I've ever borrowed in my life. First of all, we have The Hand That First Held Mine by Maggie O'Farrell, I believe. This was a book that was sort of like a dual narrative, so you have one story that's happening like in the 50s and one story that's happening in like the contemporary time. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it, I didn't love it. The story set in the 50s was like my favourite part of it. It was about a girl who is from like Devon and relocated to London and then sort of joined this magazine, was like falling in love with this guy and all about like her and her life in like the 50s and then slightly later as a journalist and stuff. She was my favourite part of the book. The contemporary storyline was about a woman who's just given birth and sort of the weird spacey existence you have when you've just got a newborn baby and you're not really sleeping and your whole world sort of becomes a bit smaller because you spend all your time in this house with this baby and stuff like this. I didn't dislike that. The plotline from the 50s just had a lot more like narrative to it. The plotline in the contemporary time was very like internalized. That's sort of my overriding thoughts on it. I don't have much more thoughts to say. It was fine. It was perfectly good. It wasn't a bad book. That's that. After that is The Guns of Avalon by Roger Zelazny, which is part of the Nine Princes of Amber series. So I won't go too much into plot details because it's not the first one, and I don't want to spoil it if anyone hasn't read it. The Nine Princes of Amber, like the first book, is like this guy is in a car accident and then like suddenly all these people are telling him these things and he's like starting to remember like this life which he didn't remember, and it turns out he's like an immortal prince and can like walk through shadows and stuff like this. So this book is a continuation of that. He did a thing in a previous book which has some pretty serious ramifications and he's kind of trying to deal with those. It was good. It was enjoyable. I feel like because I've been reading the series so spaced out, I keep like forgetting probably key parts of it, and I should probably read it a little bit faster. But on the whole, it's good, and I'm enjoying it. Book 3 that I can show you is The Nothing Girl by Jodie Taylor. I've raved about Jodie Taylor on this show. I made a show on this channel before because I love her The Chronicles of St. Mary series because time traveling historians, yes, love it. It's about Jenny who has a talking horse which only she can see who is sort of like helping her through life. And then like she's led a very sheltered existence and is sort of like attempting to have more of an independent life. It's fun. I always like reading Jodie Taylor because I find her very entertaining. I find her very easy to read. I find it quite fun. I didn't like this as much as the Chronicles of St. Mary series because, like, there are no time-traveling historians in this, and if there's one thing I'm about, it's that. It was still an enjoyable read. There's sort of like a romance drive to the book. I liked the romance. I also kind of, like, saw the romance coming from a mile away. But sometimes you want to read something like that and have like it be told to you in like a lovely fun way, which this was. Book 4 was so fucking good. Book 4 is Terry Pratchett's Nation. This has been on my to read pile for so long and I'm so glad I finally got around to this because this is one of my favourite books. It's one of my favourite Terry Pratchett books, it's one of my favourite books in general. It was so freaking good. All I have to say to you is that this was so gorgeously written. Terry Pratchett's a very funny writer, and he's often very like light and witty in Discworld. This had like a sort of step back from that like jovial blah 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 blah, blah style. So there was a little bit more seriousness to it, but it, you know, while still being a Terry Pratchett book. But I just thought this was gorgeous. It had some lovely moments in it. It was an absolute pleasure to read. I was gripped the whole time and I loved it so much. I've forgotten what number we're on, but after that we have The Hanging Tree by Ben Aronovich, whose name I always stumble over. There is a dust jacket for this somewhere, don't know where it is. I bought this for my mum for her birthday, and in the sneaky way that you do when you also want to read something when they're done with it, which I did. This is the latest in the Peter Grant London series. Peter Grant is a policeman who ends up like getting involved with some like magical shenanigans, and so like joins the magical division of the police, which is not very big. This was great. I still maintain that Foxglove Summer is my favourite one of the series so far, which is the book immediately before this. That's not to say that this was not really freaking good, though, and I really loved it. We had a return to the plot line with, like, the primary antagonist of the whole series, which was great. And also leaves it open for another one, which is great because I want more of this series always and eternally. It's so freaking good. Following on from that is a book that I've hauled maybe a year ago, dunno, and that's Junk by Melvin Burgess. And I said at the time that I had such a vivid, like, childhood memory of this cover, as well as remembering all the controversy around it when it came out. So this is like a YA book that focuses on two kids who run away from home and shenanigans that essentially end up with them both becoming addicted to heroin. And like any book that is aimed at like kids or teenagers that deals with like drug addiction, I understand there's going to be some controversy there. However, I don't think you can read this book and really think that it's recommending heroin to you. Like, this does a really great job of showing you how people get addicted, like the ways in which your ordinary person gets to a point in which they are addicted to heroin, and the ways in which that can ruin people. It shows you that it's possible to get out of that if you're in it, but it also shows you the lasting effects and the lasting damage that can have on you, not just in like a physical way, but also like an emotional way, a mental way, or how you interact with people, and also the person you are and the person you become. So this was good. It's a very simplistic language. When I first read it, it took me like a little bit to get into it because I did feel, you know, sometimes you read kids' books and you're like, just read them, you're fine. And then sometimes you read them and you're like quite conscious that you're reading a lot simpler language. But I think that's necessary in order for this to like get across all the stuff it's saying. But yeah, I liked this more than I think I expected to. So I'm glad I finally, like, read it, and I now know, and I'm informed. After that we have a book that I didn't really like. Number 9 Dream by David Mitchell. I think that this book is objectively probably very literary and very worthy. It says on the front it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who think this is an excellent book. I am coming to terms with the fact that David Mitchell is never going to be an author with whom I get on. Because, hear me out, I didn't hate this, and I've never hated any of the books that I've read by him. This is my third. I just feel a lack. Like, I just want more than what he gives me. With Cloud Atlas, I finished Cloud Atlas, and I was like, what? There should be more. Where's the bit? Where's the bit that makes me go, oh yeah? Didn't have that. Black Swan Green. Took me like a solid half of the book to get into that, but by the end I was like, okay, not the best thing I've ever read, but I'm here. This, again, took me like half the book to get into it, because for the first, like, chapter, then he does this bit, which is essentially him imagining a number of scenarios, but you don't get told that. And I just read it, and I was like, what the fuck is happening here? And I had that like a number of times throughout this book, and it's not me being an idiot. Like, I'm aware that he's doing like literary things. I just don't care. And I think that's my main problem, is objectively, there are bits of this that I like. It has stayed with me, I have thought about it, but I just didn't enjoy it for a solid half of the book. So, don't hate me, don't judge me, it's just how I feel. Penultimate book is The Mermaid's Sister by Carrie Ann Noble. This is about two sisters, one of which is the daughter of a mermaid. She was delivered to the woman who raised her, slash her mum, in like a big shell. Her other sister was delivered to her mum by a stork. So when they become like teenagers, the mermaid sister starts to transform into a mermaid, and it becomes increasingly apparent that they need to get this girl to the sea, otherwise she may die. So sisters set off with a guy who they were like raised with as childhood friends, that sort of thing. Set off to take her to the beach, but obviously it does not go smoothly. Things happen. I did enjoy this. There are things I liked about it. There are also niggles that I have. For example, my primary niggle is, you have like this three character setup with the two sisters and the guy, who they're sort of raised as like siblings, but he's off traveling a lot with this other guy, so he's only there for bits and bobs and stuff. Both of the sisters like harbour romantic feelings for this guy, so there's like a love triangle thing, which I didn't really care that much about, because I felt like as I was reading this I could sort of see what was like narratively happening. My main niggle is, as the mermaid girl starts to transform more into a mermaid, she no longer has the ability to speak, which becomes a problem, because your mermaid sister, which is such a great concept, becomes like a prop, if you will, because she can't talk. She barely interacts with them. She's like loses all of the personality that she had at the start, and sort of becomes like a prop for this main story, which is about this girl and this guy. Whereas I was really excited by the concept of this story of this like sister relationship, and I'm not saying that the sister relationship is not present, because it motivates so much of what our main character does. I just was really disappointed that a side result of this transformation, which was an interesting topic, is that this girl like just stops being a character really, and just sort of fades from the text, which I thought this was going to be like a story of sisterhood. It just really wasn't. It was more of like a romance, which is fine. I just wanted the other one. So it was okay. It wasn't bad. I thoroughly romped my way through it, just like some niggles. Finally, we've got The Other Hand by Chris Cleave. This has like the most like tantalizing back. It just says, "We don't want to tell you what happens in this book. It is truly a special story and we don't want to spoil it. Nevertheless, you need to know enough to buy it, so we will just say this. This is the story of two women. Their lives collide one fateful day and one of them has to make a terrible choice. 2 years later they meet again. The story starts here." And it asks you not to tell your friends all about it, blah, which is a bit tricky if you're doing a YouTube review like me. What I will say is, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a good read. I don't think it warrants this, like, tale of secrecy that it's asking me to be involved in. Because I think if you tell people, like, what it's about, it's more interesting than just being like, it's a really great book, but I can't tell you what happens. Like, there was no moment in this that was so shocking to me that I was like, this is why we must keep it a secret. I went to see The Mousetrap by Agatha Christie in the theatre recently, and like that, they ask you to keep the end a secret because it's like, ooh, twist, blah blah blah. This don't really have a twist. Like, it's a good read, and I want to be able to talk to you about the things it's made me think about, but now I feel like I can't because I've entered into this pact with this book. It's perfectly fine. I don't think it warrants such secrecy, but it's a good read. those are all the books that I've read recently. These are all the thoughts I have on them. If you have your own thoughts on them, please let me know, or just let me know what you've been reading. Give me any recommendations. You know the drill. We chat about books. It's in the name. I hope you are having the loveliest of days, and I will see you next week.